喂 ，hello，hello，hello，哇，今晚係難得再次咁樣去再讀神曲啦，咁樣安安啊，早晨，安安小慧，今天就久違再來念一次神曲，做少少前情提要先，上兩次呢，我哋讀咗第1去到第7首嘅地獄篇。咁如果用內容嚟講呢，就係已經行入咗去地獄裏邊啦，行過咗第1層、第2層、第3層、第4層。咁去到第7首呢，咁就係已經行完咗第4層，進入到第5層啦。咁我哋今日就係睇第8首、第9首、第10首。Hello， 轉咗嚟 ，Hello。我哋今日嚟睇第8首、第9首同第10首。咁因為第7首呢，我哋已經進入到去地獄嘅第5層啦。咁所以第8首呢，我哋會喺第5層裏邊繼續開始嘅。我呢個搖籤室可能要整一整佢啊，做到乜定呢？呢個聊天室有少少筆啊。係啦，我希望佢一陣間會變好啦。唔係嘅話，咁我直接就 delete 咗佢就算啦。OK， 我哋今日呢個係一個安靜嘅直播啊。我哋係助眠梯。咁我哋開始嚟睇下第8首。我會喺讀完成篇之後先會再回應聊天室嘅，咁樣。第8首係咁講 I say, continuing that long before we to the foot of that high tower had come, our eyes went upward to the summit of it, by reason of 2 flameless we saw placed there, and from afar another answered them, so far that hardly could the eye attain it, and to the sea of all discernment turned, I said, What saith this, and what respondeth that are the fire? And who are they that made it? And he to me, across the turbid waves, what is expected thou canst now discern, if reek of the morass conceal it or not. Caught never shot an arrow from itself that sped away athwart the air so swift. As I beheld a little boat come over the water towards us at that moment, under the guidance of a single pilot, who shouted, Now art thou arrived, foul soul. Phlegyas, Phlegyas, thou criest out in vain for this once, said my lord. Thou shalt not have us longer than in the passing of the slough. As he who listens to some great deceit that has been done to him, and then resents it, such became Phlegyas in his scattered wrath. My guide descended down into the boat, and then he made me enter after him. And only when I entered seemed it laden. Soon as the guide and I were in the boat, the antique prow goes on its way, dividing more of the water than is wont with others. While we were running through the dead canal, uprose in front of me one full of mire, and said, Who art thou that comest ere the hour? And I to him, Although I come, I stay not. But who art thou that hast become so squalid? Thou seest that I am one who weeps, he answered. And I to him, with weeping and with wailing, thou spirit's maledict, do thou remain? For thee I know, though thou art all defiled. Then stretched he both his hands unto the boat, whereat my weary master thrust him back, saying, Away there with the other dogs. Thereafter with his arms he clasped my neck. He kissed my face and said, Disdainful soul, blessed be she who bore thee in her bosom. There was an arrogant person in the world. Goodness is none that stacks his memory. So, likewise, here his shade is furious. How many are esteemed great kings up there, who here shall be like unto swine in mire, leaving behind them horrible disgraces. And I, my master, much should I be pleased if I could see him soused into his broth, before we issue forth out of the lake, and he to me, ere unto thee the shore reveal itself, thou shalt be satisfied. Such a desire didst meet thou shouldst enjoy. A little after that, I saw such havoc made of him by the people of the Maya, that still I praise and thank my God for it. They all were shouting, Ad Filippo Argenti, and that exasperate spirit Florentine turned around upon himself with his own teeth. We left him there, and more of him I tell not. But on my ears there smote a lamentation, whence forward I intend unbar mine eyes. And good master said, Even now, my son, the city draweth near, whose name is this, with the grave citizens, with the great throng, and I, its more scarce already, master, Clearly within there in the valley I discern vermilion, as if issuing from the fire they were. And here to me, the fire eternal that kindles them within makes them look red, as thou beholdest in this nether hell. Then we arrived within the most profound that circumvallates that disconsolate city. The walls appeared to me to be of iron, not without making first a circuit wide. We came unto a place where loud the pilots cried out to us, "The bark, here is the entrance." More than 1,000 at the gates I saw out of the heavens rain down, who angrily were saying, "Who is this that without death goes through the kingdom of the people dead?" And my sagacious master made a sign of wishing secretly to speak with them. A little, then they quelled their great disdain, and said, "Come thou alone." And he begone who has so boldly entered these dominions. Let him return alone by his mad road. Try, if he can, for thou shalt he remain, who has escorted him through such dark regions. Think, reader, if I was discomfited at utterance of the accursed words, for never to return he I believed. O my dear guide, who more than 7 times has rendered me secure, and drawn me from imminent peril that's before me stood, do not desert me, said I, thus undone, and if the going farther be denied us, let us retrace our steps together swiftly. And that Lord, who had led me thitherward, said unto me, "Fear not, because our passage none can take from us. It by such is given, but here await me, and thy weary spirit comfort and nourish with a better hope. For in this nether world I will not leave thee. So onward goes, and there abandons me my father sweet. And I remain in doubt, for no and yes within my head contend. I could not hear what he proposed to them, but with them there he did not linger long. Error rich within in rivalry ran back. They closed the portals, those our adversaries. On my Lord's breast, who had remained without and turned to me, with footsteps far between, his eyes cast down, his forehead shrown, had he of all its boldness, and he said with sayings, "Who has denied to me the dullsome houses? And unto me, thou, because I am angry, fear not, for I will conquer thee in the trial, whatever for defense within be planned." This arrogance of theirs is nothing new. For once they used it a less sacred gate, which finds itself without a fastening still. Or it didst thou behold that inscription? Now, this side of it descends the steep, passing across the circles without escorts, one by whose means the city shall be opened. 咁呢度就係地獄篇嘅第8首，繼續講緊詩人喺第5層嗰度見到嘅唔同嘅景象。佢呢度都大概有描述到有2、3樣嘢嘅，應該都真在你睇唔睇得明嘅啫。咁去到第9首咧，詩人繼續喺第5層地獄嗰度行。咁喺第9首呢個過程裏邊咧，佢就會行完第5層噶啦。咁佢就會落到第6層，去描述佢仍然見到嘅嘢啦。咁好似我之前咁講，喺神曲嘅世界觀入邊，地獄係有9層嘅，而越底層，即係越近第9層嘅人咧，佢哋嘅罪孽會係更大嘅。喺第1層嗰啲人咧，佢係相對係冇乜罪過嘅，可以咁講。咁我哋可以嚟睇下喺第5層同第6層裏邊見到啲乜嘢啊？或者可以咁講，喺神曲裏邊3咧係一個好重要嘅數字嚟嘅，就好似佢有地獄篇、煉獄篇、天堂篇3個篇。而每一個篇咧，如果你撇開地獄篇嘅第1首，因為地獄篇嘅第1首你可以當佢係一個引言。如果撇開佢嚟講嘅話咧，就係每一篇都有33首嘅詩歌，計埋第1首咁啊，總共有100首，可以咁樣睇。而每一首嘅詩歌裏邊，佢大概係每3行為一個單位嘅。如果你見到我直播嗰個畫面嘅話，佢大概每3行係一個完整嘅句子，但因為可能翻譯嘅問題啦，咁所以咧佢就會比較難去用翻佢原文嗰個節奏去表達翻佢出嚟。咁我哋開始去睇第9首嘅內容啦。神曲地獄篇第9首係咁樣講嘅：That hill which cowardice brought out on me, beholding my conduct a backward turn, sooner repressed within him his new color. He stopped attentive, like a man who listens, because the eye could not conduct him far through the black air and through the heavy fog. Still it behoveth us to win the fight. Began he, else such offered us herself. Oh, how I long that someone here arrive. Well, I perceived as soon as the beginning, he covered up with what came afterward. That they was quite different from the first. But nonetheless, his saying gave me fear, because I carried out the broken phrase, perhaps to a worse meaning than he had. Into his bottom of the doleful conch doth NCNeir descend from the first grade, which for his pain has only hope cut off. This question put I, and he answered me. Seldom it comes to pass that one of us maketh the journey upon which I go. True is it, once before I here below was conjured by the pitiless Alighieri, who summoned back the shades unto their bodies. Naked of me short while the flesh had been, before within that wall she made me enter, to bring a spirit from the circle of Judas, that is the lowest region, and the darkest and farthest from the heaven which circles all. Will know I the way, therefore be reassured. This fan, which a prodigious stench exhales, encompasses about the city donut, where now we cannot enter without anger. And more he said, but not in mind I have it, because mine eye had altogether drawn me towards the high tower with the red flaming summit, where in a moment saw I swift uprising the three infernal furies stained with blood, who had the limbs of women and their men, and with the greenest hydras were begirt, small serpents and seraphs were their tresses, wherewith their horrid temples were entwined. And he who well the handmaids of the Queen of everlasting lamentation knew, said unto me, Behold the fierce emeralds. This is Megara on the left-hand side. She who is whipping on the right, Alecto. Tisiphone is between, and then was silent. Each one her breast was rending with her nails. They beat them with their palms, and cried so loud that I for dread pressed close unto the poet. Medusa come, so we to stone will change him. All shouted looking down. In evil hour avenge will not on Theseus his assault. Turn thyself round, and keep thine eyes close shut. For if the Gorgon appear, and thou shouldst see it, no more returning upward would there be. Thus said the master, and he turned me round himself, and trusted not unto my hands, so far as not to blind me with his own. O ye who have undistempered intellects, observe the doctrine that conceals itself, banish the veil of the mysterious verses, and now they came across the turbid waves that clangor of a sound with terror fraught, because of which both of the margins trembled. Not otherwise, it was then of a wind, impetuous on account of Edward's hits, that smites the forest, and without restraint the branches rends, beats down, and bears away. Rides onward, laden with dust, it goes superb, and puts to flight the wild beasts and the shepherds. Mine eyes he loosed, and said, directs the nerve of vision now along that ancient foam, there yonder where the smoke is most intense, even as the frogs before the hostile serpents across the water scattered all abroad, until each one is huddled in the earth. More than 1,000 ruined souls I saw, thus fleeing from before one who on foot was passing over the stakes with souls unwet. From off his face he found that unctuous air, waving his left hand oft in front of him, and only with that anguish seemed he weary. Well, I perceived one sent from heaven was he, and to the master turned, and he made sign that I should quiet stand, and bow before him. Ah, how disdainful he appeared to me! He reached the gate, and with a little rod he opened it, for there was no resistance. Oh, banished out of heaven, people despised, thus he began upon the horrid threshold. Whence is this arrogance within you caught? Wherefore recalcitrate against that will, from which the end can never be cut off, and which has many times increased your pain? What helpeth it to butt against the fate? Your Cerberus, if you remember well, for that still bears his chin and gullets peeled. Then he returned along the merry road, and spake no word to us, but had the look of one whom other care constrains and gods than that of him who is his presence is. And we our feet directed towards the city, after those holy words all confident. Within we entered without any contest, and I, who inclination had to see what the condition such a fortress holds, soon as I was within, cast round mine eye, and see on every hand an ample plain, full of distress and torments terrible, even as Arles, where stagnance grows the wrong, even as Pola near to the Cornaro, that shuts in Italy and bars its border. The sepulchres make all the place uneven, so likewise did they there on every side, saving that there the manner was more bitter. For flames between the sepulchres were scattered, by which they so intensely heated were, that iron more so asked not any art. All of the coverings uplifted were, and from them issued forth such dire laments. Soothsome day of the wretched and tormented, and I, my master, what are all those people who, having sepulture within those tombs, make themselves audible by doleful sighs? And he to me, here are the heresiarchs, with their disciples of all sects, and much more than thou thinkest laden are the tombs. Here like together, with its like is buried, and more and less the monuments are heated, and when he to the right had turned, we passed between the torments and high parapets. 呢度就係神曲地獄篇第9首，去到中間嘅位置，詩人就已經行到去地獄嘅第6層啦。雖然佢冇好明顯咁話俾你聽，我而家已經進入去到第6層咁樣，但係佢都有講到佢係越走越深嘅。咁喺嗰個位置，其實佢已經離開咗第5層嘅地獄啦，已經描寫緊一個新嘅景象。咁我哋就開始讀埋第10首地獄篇，繼續描寫地獄第6層裏邊會見到嘅事情啦。Now onward goes along a narrow path between the torments and the city hall. My master and I follow it at his back. O power supreme that through these ample circles turneth me, I began, as pleases thee, speak to me, and my longing satisfy. The people who were lying in these tombs might they be been already uplifted that covers all, and no one keepeth guard. And he to me, they all will be closed up, when from Yehoshaphat they shall return here with the bodies they have left above. The cemetery hath upon this side, with Epicurus or his followers, who with the body mortal make the soul. But in the question thou dost put to me, within his shop thou soon be satisfied, and likewise in the which thou keepest silent, and I, good leader, I but keep concealed from thee my heart, that I may speak the less. nor only now hast thou there to dispose me. O Tuscan, thou who through the city of fire goest alive, thus speaking modestly, be pleased to stay thy footsteps in this place. Thy mode of speaking makes thee manifest, a native of that noble fatherland, to which perhaps I too modestful was. Upon a sudden issued forth this sound from out one of the tombs, wherefore I pressed, fearing, a little near to my leader, and unto me he said, Turn thee, what dost thou? Behold there Farinata, who has risen. From the waist upwards, wholly shalt thou see him. I had already fixed mine eyes on his, and he uprose erect with breast and front, and as if hell he had in great despite, and with courageous hands and prompt my leader, thrust me between the sepulchres towards him, exclaiming, Let thy words explicit be. As soon as I was at the foot of his tomb, somewhat he eyed me, and, as if disdainful, then asked of me, Who were thine ancestors? I, who desirous of obeying was, concealed it not, but all revealed to him. Whereat he raised his brows a little upward. Then said he, Fiercely adverse have they been to me, and to my father, and my party, so that through several times I scattered them. If they were banished, they returned all on all sides. I answered him, the first time and the second, but yours have not acquired that art aright. Then there uprose upon the sight, uncovered down to the chin, a shadow at his side. I think that he had risen on his knees. Round me he gazed, as his solicitude he had to see if someone else were with me. But after his suspicion was all spent, weeping, he said to me, If through his blind prison thou goest by loftiness of genius, where is my son, and why is he not with thee? And I to him, I come not of myself. He who is waiting yonder leads me here, whom in disdain perhaps your Guido had, as language and the mode of punishment already unto me had read his name. On that account, my answer was so full of starting suddenly. He cried out, How saddest thou? He had. Is he not still alive? Does not the sweet light strike upon his eyes? When he became aware of some delay, which I before my answer made, supine he fell again, and forth appeared no more, but the ardor, magnanimous, at whose desire I had remained, did not his aspect change, neither his neck had he moved, nor bent his side. And if, continuing his first discourse, they have that art, he said, not learned aright, that more tormenteth me than doth this bed. But 50 times shall not rekindled be the countenance of the lady who reigns here, ere thou shalt know how heavy is that art, and as thou wouldest to the sweet world return, say, why the people is so pitiless against my race in each one of its laws? Whence I to him the slaughter and great carnage which have with crimson stained the Arbia, caused such orisons in our temple to be made. After his head he with a sigh had shaken, there I was not alone, he said, nor surely without a cause had with the others moved, but there I was alone, where everyone consented to the laying waste of Florence. He who defended her with open face. Ah, so hereafter may your seed repose, I him entreated, saw for me the knot which has entangled my conceptions here. It seems that you can see, if I hear rightly, beforehand whatsoe'er time brings with it, and in the present have another mode. We see, like those who have imperfect sight. The thing, he said, that distant are from us, so much still shines on us the sovereign ruler. When they draw near, or are, is wholly vain our intellect, and if none brings it to us, not anything know we of your human state. Hence thou canst understand that wholly dead will be our knowledge from the moment when the portal of the future shall be closed. Then I, as if compunctious for my fault, said, now, then, you will tell that fallen one that still his son is with the living joined. And if just now, in answering, I was dumb, tell him I did it, because I was thinking already of the era you have served me. And now my master was recalling me. Wherefore more eagerly I prayed the spirit that he would tell me who was with him there. He said, with more than 1,000 here I lie. Within here is the second feathering and the cardinal, and of the rest I speak not. Thereon he hid himself, and I towards the ancient poet turned my steps, reflecting upon the saying, which seemed hostile to me. He moved along, and afterward, thus going, he said to me, why art thou so bewildered? And I in his inquiry satisfied him, let memory preserve what thou hast heard against thyself. That sage commanded me, and now attend here. And he raised his finger. When thou shalt be before the radiant sweet, of her whose spacious eyes all things behold, from her thou didst know the journey of thy life, unto the left hand, then he turned his feet. We left the wall and went towards the middle, along a path that strikes into a valley, which even up there, unpleasant, made its tensed. 呢度就係第10首神曲地獄篇嘅第10首。咁呢度都係講緊喺地獄第6層裏邊所見到嘅人啦、事物啦，都係見到都同前面嗰5層咧都有少少唔同嘅。詩人對於第6層嘅描寫咧就唔係停喺第10首詩歌呢度嘅，佢描寫第6層係直至第12首詩歌先至去到第7層嘅。如果你講地獄篇嚟講咧，佢對於頭4層嘅描寫其實咧就係好短，跟住第5層開始，第5層、第6層、第7層越寫越長嘅，到第8層咧甚至乎幾乎佔咗成個地獄篇嘅一半。佢之後會慢慢用呢個令你同我都想瞓覺嘅方式去讀完成個地獄佢。咁我今日就只會讀呢3首嘅啫，8至10。咁你下面見到嘅第11至13首咧，就會係下次嘅部分。咁點解我每次就係讀3首咧？就係跟翻我頭先講嘅，因為對於神曲嚟講，3咧係真係一個重要嘅數字嚟嘅。即係撇開第1首咧，之後其實撇開第1首就係每33首就係一個大嘅篇章，就係33首地獄篇、33首煉獄篇、33首天堂篇。咁我盡量跟住佢個 flow 因為每3首係一個單位啦。如果你係有留意嘅話，其實佢個翻譯都有跟翻大概每3句一個 full stop 或者一個 colon 嘅。有興趣嘅話，亦都可以去自己去閱讀下神曲。我亦都有見過有書局咧去講解神曲嘅，但係真係極少極少。亦都好似雖然神曲咧係你可能會喺 history 嘅書本裏會見到佢係一個喺宗教上面咧都係一個，但係點講咧？喺嗰陣時嘅年代嚟講，佢都算係幾創新嘅，幾突破。佢冒住被當時嘅天主教會，其實當時冇新教啦，或者咁講，當時得一個，當時冇基督教同天主教嘅分別啦。我姑且叫佢做天主教會。你當時天主教會佢教義係唔同嘅，佢詩人但丁係喺神曲裏邊係講佢自己嘅神學觀嘅，其實有少少。咁如果你有興趣嘅話，亦都歡迎你自己去閱讀一下啦。咁但係就應該比較困難少少啦，揾相關資料嘅話。好，咁如果你係有聽足呢大概50分鐘嘅配信呢，我諗你應該都真係瞓着咗噶啦，或者係後來就係嚟聽咗一陣嘅。如果你淨係聽我呢個台呢，你都應該就嚟瞓着噶。我呢個台呢到呢度呢就差唔多要刪啦，因為多謝你嚟睇台啦。如果你失眠嘅時候，亦都歡迎你嚟睇翻我呢3次嘅直播檔，我係有留檔，亦都有整一個播放清單嘅。咁你可以咁樣做啦。好，咁我呢個直播就嚟到呢度啦，拜拜。